Assalamu alaikum. This lecture is the continuation of previous lecture on cardiac cycle. You can see here the diagram of cardiac cycle in which it is showing that this is the ventricular pressure curve. You can see here ventricular pressure curve in red and ventricular volume curve in blue. And this black dotted line is the atrial pressure, as we have discussed in the previous lecture, pressure volume curve. So now we will study how the ECG and the heart sounds are correlated with pressure volume changes. Today our topic is how ECG and heart sounds are correlated with pressure and volume changes. So we will pick one by one each phase of the cardiac cycle and correlate it with ECG and heart sounds. You can see here the heart valve, AV valves and semilunar valves. You have seen in the previous picture that AV valves are closed at the beginning of isovolumetric contraction, and these valves are opened at the rapid filling phase. You can see in the previous slide AV valves close at the isovolumetric contraction. You can see this isovolumetric contraction, AV valves are closed, and AV valves are open at the start of rapid inflow. And aortic valves are closed. Aortic valves are closed when the ejection period is over, and they are open when the ejection period starts. Okay. At the beginning of isovolumetric relaxation, they are closed, and at the beginning of ejection phase, they are open. So two are AV valves, and semilunar valves are also in two number. One is aortic valve and other is pulmonary valve. Now the heart sounds. Heart sound is the first sound. First heart sound is due to the closure of AV valves, and second heart sound is due to the closure of semilunar valves. First sound is S1 and the second sound is called S2 heart sound. There are totally 4 heart sounds. S1 is due to the closure of AV valves, S2 is due to the closure of semilunar valves, and S3 is due to the rapid inflow of blood in the ventricles. When ventricles are filling, blood comes in the ventricle, and it rushes in the ventricle, and there is a force of friction between blood and the walls of ventricle, which produce sound, that is S3 sound. And S4 sound is due to atrial contraction, and S4 sound is due to atrial contraction. So there are 4 heart sounds, but normally S1 and S2 sounds can be heard, and S3 and S4 can be heard very difficultly. This is the relationship of electrocardiogram to the cardiac cycle. You can see here. In ECG, there are actually 3 types of waves: P wave, QRS complex, and T wave. You can see here. This is P wave, this is QRS complex, and this is T wave. So P wave shows atrial contraction, QRS complex shows ventricular contraction, and T wave shows ventricular relaxation. So these are the 3 waves. You can see here. This is the P wave. P wave is corresponding with the with the atrial contraction. This is the atrial contraction. You can see also here atrial contraction. This is atrial contraction. This is also atrial contraction. So you can see here, you can also see here P wave. P wave is with atrial contraction. And QRS complex, it is just before isovolumetric contraction. This is isovolumetric contraction. So this is just before, QRS complex is just before isovolumetric contraction, and T wave is just before isovolumetric relaxation. Just before, you can see here, this is just before isovolumetric relaxation. And this is also here. P wave is followed by atrial contraction, QRS complex before the onset of ventricular systole, and T wave before the end of ventricular contraction. This is the relationship of electrocardiogram to the cardiac cycle. So now we will discuss each pressure volume phase of the cardiac cycle and correlate it with ECG and heart sounds. During atrial systole, you can see the P wave and S4 heart sound. You can see here, as I have told you, S4 heart sound is due to atrial muscular contraction, and it is seen in children, young adults. And you can see also here, this is the P wave, and this is the S4 heart sound. So at same location, both P wave and S4 heart sound are at same location, and they can be heard at the stage of atrial systole. Isovolumetric contraction. During isovolumetric contraction, you can have, as you have seen in the previous slide, there is a QRS complex during isovolumetric contraction, and the heart sound is S1. You can see here, this is QRS complex of the ECG, and this is the S1 heart sound. You can also see here in this one. This is your isovolumetric contraction. This is QRS complex, and this is your second heart sound. You can see here. You can see in this one, S1 heart sound. This is your S1 heart sound. Okay. The S1 heart sound, QRS complex, and isovolumetric contraction. These are the three phases. In ejection period, no ECG changes, and as well as no heart sound. You can see here. And in the next slow ejection has a T wave and no heart sound. You can see here, T wave but no heart sound. Then isovolumetric relaxation. As you know, when there is isovolumetric relaxation starts, there is the closure of semilunar valves. So that's why S2 heart sound is in this phase, but there is no ECG deflection. And aortic heart sound is heard prior to pulmonary, as aortic valves close prior to pulmonary valve. You can see here S2 heart sound. This is the S2 heart sound, but in this dark blue color, part, there is no ECG deflection. There is isoelectric point. This straight line is called, this straight line is called isoelectric point. So ECG has P wave, QRS complex, and T wave, and isoelectric points. In rapid ventricular filling, you can see here, ECG, no deflection. Heart sound is a third heart sound because it is the filling phase. And I have told you that is due to inrushing of blood into the ventricles. Third heart sound is produced, and it is heard in children, athletes, and pregnancy. The rapid ventricular filling phase. You can see here S3 heart sound, but no ECG deflection. This is diastasis, slow filling phase, and there is no deflection and no heart sound. And this is the main picture. You have to draw this picture. This is the main picture, and you can see here. Now you can correlate at this AV valve is closed. As you know that when AV valve is closed, S1 heart sound is produced. When aortic valve is closed, S2 heart sound is produced. When there is rapid inflow, then third heart sound is produced. And when there is atrial systole, here is a fourth heart sound, but it is not mentioned in the diagram. Here is fourth heart sound. And ECG, atrial systole, P wave, isovolumetric contraction, QRS complex, and before isovolumetric relaxation, there is T wave. So this is the main diagram of cardiac cycle, where we have correlated the pressure volume changes and each phase of the cardiac cycle with ECG and heart sounds. Currently draw this picture on your notebooks. This is very important from regarding exam point of view. If you have any query regarding cardiac cycle, you can consult me.